All right. So recording's in. Again, thank you everyone for showing up. Just a quick info session on this competition, what we're doing, how it started, and kind of what we can expect moving forward. Hopefully I'll talk for about 10, 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes on all this stuff, and then really open it up to questions to make sure we all feel like we're in a good spot with all this stuff. Hello, Jordan. All right. So just a quick introduction. Who am I? What are we doing here? My name is Elijah Meyer. I'm faculty here at NC State. I did my postdoc at the other university. I did a postdoc for 2 years at Duke. And before that, I graduated with my PhD in statistics at Montana State. So was tired of the cold, got out of Montana and came over here, and now I'm teaching Stat 511 for those that are graduate students and know about that course. I'll be teaching an introductory data science course in next semester, as well as 307 and 308, or I'll be the course coordinator for those. When I was first doing my postdoc at Duke, it was really interesting to me that no professor was really kind of leading this whole sports research, sports competitions, really anything to do with that. And so what we did is me and another faculty member at Duke while I was there, started talking to the professor at UNC. We ultimately decided that we wanted to make something. And then when I took the job here at NC State, we thought it was a really good opportunity to lean into the whole triangle area and get people involved in sports and data analytics and constructed data competition. So that's where it really comes from. It comes from three instructors that are really interested in sports analytics, and wanting to work with students and work with all of you. So what this is going to be, how many people are familiar with DataFest? Have you participated in DataFest? Anything like that? I guess most people are muted, but I see a head shake or two no. So DataFest is a data competition where they give you a prompt and you have 48 hours to kind of work through that prompt with the data that we give you. It's called a hackathon. And we wanted to approach this data competition a little differently, where instead of giving you a very short and strict timeline to get all of this done, we wanted to give you a lot of flexibility so you could be as creative as possible as when you're trying to approach the problem that we're giving you here. And so I'm going to start to share my screen and we're going to walk through this website here. And we can save questions to the end, but also if there are any questions as I'm talking through all of this stuff, please feel free to let me know. We can see thumbs up. We can see the website all good. Perfect. Thank you, Tommy. All right. So uh, all of you have registered. This is great. If you know people that are interested in participating in this analytics competition but haven't registered yet, please have them do so. From now on, anytime that I communicate with all of you or anytime that I update this website or someone else updates this website, you'll get notifications through that Google group that we're in. And so if you're not registered for the competition, you're not going to get the updates. You're not going to see when the workshop is being put on. You're not going to see how to contact us, anything like that. So uh, please get that word out if there are some people that are interested but haven't registered yet here. Just a quick timeline. What's going on here? So we're obviously having the info session now. Then sometime in November, I'm going to hold a workshop and I'm going to kind of base it around what all of you want to learn in that workshop or want to work on in that workshop. And so um, I'll kind of send out a poll with taking opinions and suggestions about what you want to learn if you're interested in data cleaning or modeling or how to approach this stuff or just kind of general R skills or Python skills or something along those lines. Um, I'll get all of that information from you. Then we'll schedule some time in November to actually meet on campus and kind of hang out and you can work on all of this stuff here. And then on January 10th is when we'll collect all of these submissions and we'll talk about what we're submitting, how to submit, and everything like that. Is there a question? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, perfect. So, like I said, there's three of us that have come up with this idea. This is the first time that this analytics competition is being launched. We're really excited about it, really passionate about it, and we hope to continue doing this in the future. So we appreciate you being involved for the first go around. It really um, supports us. If we get the more participation that we get, the more opportunities we have in the future to get more faculty involved, to get funding behind this competition, so on and so forth. So it really starts with year one, and it really starts with all of you. So again, I appreciate your interest in all of this. The last time I looked at the registration sheet, there was about, again, 40 to 45 students from Duke, about 30 to 35 from NC State, and about 80 to 85 from UNC. And so, again, if there's anyone that you know that may be interested in it, please feel free to share this video with them or share this website and tell them to get registered. All right. Let's talk about what we're doing. Let's talk about the nature of this competition. So really, the whole purpose of this competition is for you to predict point spread. And so how many points for college basketball, how many points is the home team going to score, minus how many points are the away team going to score. And we're really leaning into this idea of it being a triangle challenge. And so we're going to be predicting point spread for Duke basketball, NC State basketball, and UNC basketball for this upcoming season, starting with the ACC games in the middle of January. We'll start the predicting come January 11th, which is why the deadline for the predictions is due on the 10th. So how do we submit these predictions? We have this a Google Sheet for you here. You can download a copy and it's going to look something like this. Here's all of the games that we're going to predict. There's 42 games, ACC games across Duke, UNC, and NC State. And they're all listed for you here. Again, home team, away team. And then this is where you're going to input all of your predictions here. So again, how many points do we predict Duke to score? Minus how many points we predict Notre Dame to score. That's how we're defining point spread in this case. And then instead of just predicting the point spread and calling it good, right? We want to be good statisticians, good data scientists, and we want to incorporate some level of uncertainty around all of these predictions. And so what you're going to do is you're going to not only give us a point spread, but you're also going to give us an interval. Now, whether that's a confidence interval, a prediction interval, something along those lines, it's entirely up to you. We're just asking for some sort of uncertainty or some sort of interval around that point spread, again, across these 42 games. And your model is going to produce all of this information for you. And so when your model produces this information, pack it up nice and neat into this Google Doc, give us your team name, give us the team members' names, and then you can submit it and you'll be good to go. Now you can submit predictions and intervals anytime between now and January 10th. But we do recommend to wait a little bit to actually get some data from this season to help incorporate that into your models. We think that it will ultimately make your predictions a little bit better. It definitely can be done, but it is a little bit more challenging to use past data to predict new season's results. Although I'm sure we'll do that and people do that all the time. Again, it would be more information if we start to use more current data. So you can kind of think about things like that too as you're preparing your models to make these predictions and give you these interval estimates here. We don't need to change anything here. You're just going to change what's highlighted in the blue. In terms of team members, another thing that's unique about this analytics competition compared to, say, your Data Fest or something along those lines is that if you want to work on this solo, perfect. You don't have to be part of a team. You can work at your own pace, at your own leisure, and get this done as kind of your own person or team of one. But you're also more than welcome to work with other members and kind of form your own team up to 5 individuals here. So a lot of flexibility in how you want to approach this. Do you want to work as a team? Do you want to work individual? That's entirely up to you. If you're only working in individual, you can kind of just delete these 4 cells here, or you can just leave them blank and put your name right here. A lot of information. Any questions on what I mean by point spread, what I mean by intervals, or what we're trying to predict across these 42 ACC games. We'll get into the how and other stuff in just a little bit. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah. Can we
Mhm.
pick our group mates or is this just randomly assigned?
Yeah, no, great question, Steve. So it's you get to pick them entirely up to you. Who you want to work with, or if you want to work solo, by all means, go for it. It's just going to be reflected here in this, but I'm going to be and we collectively are going to be pretty hands off in terms of how you approach this and who you work with, while simultaneously I want to be there to support you if there are questions kind of about the project or about the competition or kind of how to go about it. Good question. Any other questions? Very cool. All right. So again, this is all reiterated right here as well. You're then going to take your submissions, put them in the Dropbox link here, and then you'll be good to go with all of that. If you do make submissions early and then you find some time later in the semester and you go, you know what, I actually want to fit a different model, I want to redo that, we'll take your latest submission. So there's that as well. And then we're cutting everything off by January 10th because again, ACC games start on January 11th, and that's what we're making predictions on. So, how are we evaluating predictions in this competition? We're using something called mean absolute error. This is the jargony math formula for it. Basically, what this is saying is we're looking at your prediction and how close it is to the actual point spread. Again, home team minus away team. Whoever does the best across all these 42 games will be the winner of this category. And throughout the season, you're going to see this scoreboard kind of dynamically update as these games are played. So our whole goal is to get engagement now, get people thinking about data, get people thinking about modeling sports data, working together. And then when these games actually are played, you can see how you've done, which is cool. And again, this will be dynamically updated. So if you're doing really well, awesome. If you're not doing so well, then we'll talk about how we can revise things a little bit too. All right. The next category, so you're going to see a third column on that leaderboard. And the next category that we're going to evaluate everyone on is the intervals that you give us. And there's two components to this piece here. So one, we want to make sure that your intervals are doing a good job at actually capturing this prediction. That's the whole point of making intervals, is we want to actually capture what the truth is. And so we've set this cutoff here for the amount of intervals that you give us. What we expect is at least 70% of them to capture that point, that predicted point spread, or that true point spread as the games are played. If you give us intervals that are too small and you miss more than 30% of the time, if your coverage is less than 70%, you're just disqualified for this second piece here. Now you're still in the running for the first piece, but you're disqualified for the second piece. If your confidence intervals or your prediction intervals do capture the true predictions across 70% of all of the 42 games, then what we do is we take the average of the width of your interval. And so what this metric is doing is it's a combination of, are you actually capturing the true predicted point spread for all of these games? And then also, how precise are you? Are you giving us really, really, really wide confidence intervals so your coverage is really high, but your intervals are really, really large? Are you giving us really, really small intervals to the point where maybe you're missing too much and you're disqualified? You're trying to find the nice middle ground in there to where your coverage is good, but also your intervals are fairly precise or practically useful in that regard. So that's kind of the explanation behind what this is going on here. So again, on that leaderboard, if I go back, you'll see this mean absolute error score here, but then you also see a confidence interval one as well, and they'll simultaneously be dynamically updated throughout the season as those games are played, that we're ultimately predicting. Now, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about kind of why all of you are here in the first place. One, all of you are here because I know or I'm going to make the assumption that you're interested in sports analytics. You're interested in working with sports data, kind of how we can use modern statistical tools to analyze sports data or use sports data to do something useful with it. Um, in a lot of my time, people also, when they work in DataFest or when they compete in DataFest, they use the DataFest participation as examples on how to work with data when they're applying for jobs as well. And so what we hope you get out of this is one, you meet some other people that are really interested in sports statistics, both within our university at NC State as well as the other two universities. Two, you get some skills that maybe you didn't have before in working with sports data and making predictions. And then three, this is something that can go on a resume, something that can go on a CV, and you can explain to a future employer exactly what you did, how you worked with data to make predictions, how you were thinking critically about interval width and precision versus coverage and all of those things. And so it can be really beneficial in that regard when they ask you your experience in working with data, your experience in modeling, or your experience in predictions. All right. Any questions on kind of what this is or how we're evaluating you based on this thing we call mean absolute error? Or any questions on how we're evaluating you based on confidence interval width here?
Yeah. I think okay, so it's home minus away team, so they can be negative, like point spreads can be negative. So 6.5 points is not the same as -6.5.
You're exactly right. Yep. So just for consistency, we're always going to do home team minus away team. And so, if it's -6.5, then you're predicting that away team to score more points than the home team. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? All right. So how do we start? Well, there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. And the thing that I'll say before we kind of go through this getting started piece is that this is hard, and this is supposed to be hard. We're using data from last season and maybe the early part of this season to predict out for future ACC games. If your intervals are wide, if your predictions are off, that's okay. It's hopefully we just get us thinking critically about all this stuff and just kind of see where our best falls. But this is a really hard thing to do. And so keep that in mind as well and approach it with a lot of creativity. The the thing that's not on this timeline yet that I want to make an announcement about is that once you get all of your predictions in, what we're going to do is sometime after the first few games, we're going to give you an opportunity to also revamp your model and revamp your predictions with even more data. And so if you aren't feeling as confident about your predictions or your confidence intervals, or you're fairly low on the scoreboard or whatever, we don't have to check out, but instead we'll kind of revamp revamp your model, get new predictions, get new confidence intervals, and see how the rest of your season goes. And so sometime the date's not on here because we haven't exactly nailed it down. Again, this is the first time this analytics competition has been done, but sometime I'm guessing at the end of January, early February, that opportunity will present itself, and we can think hard about what new models may look like, or you and your team can think hard about what new models may look like. So this getting started that Dr. Fisher created here is in R, but you don't have to use R. So um, Mario, Alex, and myself, we all tend to use R for our research and in our classes. But if you are more familiar with, say, Python, if you're more familiar with, say, SAS, those types of things, you can approach this competition using whatever technologies that you're most familiar with, or you think that you can kind of work with these data the best with. But you're going to see these resources that we give you um, in R. So the first thing that we suggest doing is downloading, if you are using R, there's a lot of college data that can be scraped using a couple simple lines of code here in this NCAA Hoop R package. So the first thing that you'll do is you'll run this code here, run this code to kind of open up that NCAA hoop package. And then what it allows you to do is it allows you to specify a team. And so in this case, probably looking at Duke, NC State, UNC, specify the year that you want to collect data on, right? Maybe you want all of the data from Duke's basketball schedule from the 2022-2023 season. Maybe you think that the 2021-2022 season's data is also useful, so maybe you want to scrape all of that as well. Again, it's entirely up to you. And when you run this code, it's going to look something like this, where you get things like the game, the date, the opponent, which could be important, location, team score, opposing score, all of that good stuff, and more documentation on this NCAA Hoop R package can be found right here on this link. Now, this isn't the only data that we suggest using, and you don't have to use these data at all if you don't want to. But we think that this is a really nice starting point for you to think critically about how to approach this complicated problem. So basic prediction, what do I mean by fitting a model? What do I mean by predictions and getting intervals? Well, Alex again went through, wrote some R code and did a quick demonstration. This is what I kind of like to call the by hand way to do it in R. There's also functions to calculate predictions, to calculate confidence intervals for you. So you don't have to go through this this method that he's showing entirely. You can use these prepackaged functions to get you predictions, confidence intervals, so on and so forth. But what he did here as just kind of the naive baseline is he calculated the mean points across the 2023 season for Duke, UNC, and NC State, calculated the differences, calculated the variance, and ended up making confidence intervals solely based on that information, solely based on just mean points per game. And so how this reads is, right, Duke versus UNC, he predicts a point spread of -7, which means predicting UNC to win. But then we have a really wide confidence interval around this prediction. Coverage is probably very high, but is it practically important that I give you an interval from -40 to 26 for point spread? Probably not. So it's up to you to think critically of, oh, well, how can I get that confidence interval to be more precise? Or, you know what I think is an important variable to predict point spread? Rebounds, location, assists, some combination of these variables. You can include these in your model, in your regression model, simple linear regression, multiple linear regression. You can include interactions, kind of all of those things to start getting these predictions a little bit more appropriate, and maybe using that additional information so your confidence intervals or prediction intervals start to shrink a little bit. And again, you can kind of go through the by hand way if you want, or there's things in R that can help you get predictions and prediction and confidence intervals as well that you're more than likely, or you're more than willing to use there. So, but this is kind of the first step. And you can compare your model to kind of the baseline model with no information there. Any questions on kind of, now that we're thinking a little bit more about this, questions on what a prediction is? What do I mean by prediction? Or what do I mean by the interval around the prediction that I'm having you do? All right. And we'll save some time for questions at the end as well. So just came up with a couple questions that we thought you might have. And so sign up questions, we already have We have all of that here. Obviously, all of you are already signed up because you're here, and I appreciate you being here. Eligible to compete. So if you are advertising this to your friends, so on and so forth. Right now, we have this competition restricted to students, both at the undergrad level and the master's level at UNC, NC State, and Duke. Think in time we would like to expand this out, but I'm really excited about leaning into the Triangle Challenge and seeing our NC State data scientists and statisticians do really well, especially compared to the other two schools. So right now we're just limiting it to our three universities. Obviously, no registration fee. Alex, Mario, and I, we're not gaining anything from this outside of the experience working with all of you on this stuff and seeing some really cool predictions and models be made as a result of all of your hard work. What do you need to compete? Go to the task page. We looked at that Excel spreadsheet already. At this point, outside of keeping track of the winners, which we want to do, we'll put another tab here at the end on who won with the mean square error, who won with the confidence intervals. We'll get a little get together as well sometime next semester and kind of announce the winners more formally. At this point in time, there is no funding for like a formal prize, but it could change, especially as this competition kind of gains some steam and gains more popularity. And I'm hoping to have this change in the future. So again, it's really important that people participate in this if we want to continue this in the future. And I'm very grateful for your interest, given that this is the first time something like this is being done. So I appreciate that. And again, we're going to keep track of the winners year after year after year, just to kind of highlight the great work that all of you have done. So I'm your contact. Obviously, I'm excited to get to know all of you more. Just people that are interested in sports statistics. I've done a bit of sports research in myself before I was an instructor. I thought I was going to be Mr. Moneyball, and I applied for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I've given a talk or two at a sports conference. So this research, these types of competitions are near and dear to my heart. They're a lot of fun. And so I'm really excited to work with all of you as we come up with these predictions together. So I'm your point of contact. If you have any questions kind of throughout this process about making predictions, making confidence intervals or prediction intervals, please feel free to reach out to me. We could even set up a time to chat, and then we'll have more of a formal kind of larger gathering sometime in November about topics that you want to talk about as we start to finalize some of those predictions. Lastly, for resources, this is to help people feel comfortable kind of exploring this space, especially if you're a little bit newer to modeling or newer to data cleaning or things like that. We want to provide a variety of resources for you. And then again, you also have my email as a point of contact to ask any questions. But more than likely, when you start to find data that you're interested in, you're going to want to combine it all into one data set. And so there's a bunch of resources here on how to both import data, but also how to work with data, clean data, join data together. This will be really useful. I also hope that if you don't have these skills yet, then this competition is an excuse to develop these skills. That's kind of another one of our passive goals with this competition here. We also have a variety of books as resources. Again, these are all in the context of R, but there are resources out there for SAS and Python. If you're interested, I can kind of track those down for you. And then we have articles to kind of get you inspired about how to approach this. If you do need that inspiration, there's this article here that uses linear regression to model point spread, so on and so forth. Confidence intervals versus prediction intervals as well. If you've ever heard of a prediction interval versus a confidence interval, this could be a good article to start with, so on and so forth. So, all right. I guess the last thing before I take questions is just to reiterate how excited I am about all of this, excited about your participation. Again, we want to keep this going for years and years to come. And so we appreciate your interest. And again, if you know anyone else that you want to be on a team with, have them register. Or if you think that they'll be interested in something like this, as long as they're an NC State student and not a PhD student, they're more than welcome to participate for the first year. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to any and all questions. We can chat, and then I'll wish you all a wonderful weekend and hopefully be in touch with you throughout the semester. But any questions on the analytics competition here? Yeah, go ahead. Is it Amin? Ahmed? Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I I was 3 minutes late to this meeting. I missed the first 3 minutes,
Hmm.
so I was just wondering what you had covered.
Yeah. So first 3 minutes, not a lot. I introduced myself as being faculty here in the stats department and being from Montana and all of those things. And otherwise, really in the early goings, I wanted to reiterate the deadline on when all these predictions are due, January 10th. We suggest kind of waiting until the basketball season starts to get some data from this season to help make these predictions. Um, but don't wait too long because what we're predicting is we're predicting ACC games across the three schools. And so, um, yeah, just making sure that this date was on everyone's radar and then kind kind of went in from there. So,
Your name is?
uh, my name is Elijah.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I'm the
So,
legally blind graduate student I was communicating with you.
yes, yep, yeah, we've been talking, and we'll talk. We can talk more after this as well. I'll make sure this video is posted, and anyone that wants to come into, I'm hanging out in Sass Hall quite a bit. It's where my office is located, and so if you're interested in meeting up to talk more about this, strategies on how to approach this, again, I want to be there to support you as best I can, while still just being hands off and giving you the creative freedom to tackle a challenging problem. So, anyone who's listening to this on the recording side of things, or anyone who is here now. Yeah, feel free to email me whether you have questions or you just want to chat more about sports statistics in general. I'd be happy to do that.
Where is your office located?
Um, what is the number? I will post it on the website. I believe it's 5208, but I am not exactly sure. I'm new faculty here this semester. I just finished my postdoc at Duke before getting hired over, so still getting familiar with everything.
Is this your first year, first semester at NC State?
This is my first semester at NC State. Yep, I was actually working with Dr. Fisher, who's like the Duke representative for this analytics competition. For the last 2 years, and then I graduated from my postdoc and got hired on here. Happy to change the blue to red, that's for sure. Any other questions? All right. Well, like I said, I'll stop this recording and I'll get this posted. Just do this here, but at any point